Welcome to the Gals Guide to the Galaxy podcast, where a group of gals gather for you one cool thing around our topic of the month. Is it ancient history? Is it breaking news? Is it safe for work? Well, that's up to each gal. All we know is that...
Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night.
Hello and welcome back to the Gals Guide to the Galaxy podcast. It is a new research theme at the Gals Guide Library. And get this, we are actually in the Gals Guide Library. It's a Christmas miracle.
Can you hear all the books?
I know. I think so. I think it even sounds different. It sounds magical. So even though we opened in March, there was this whole pandemic of all things. So this is actually the first time we have actually been able to gather in the library and record a show. Ladies, how does it feel?
Amazing.
Awesome.
Yes.
I just feel inspired in these surroundings.
I know, right?
I do.
It feels like we've done more research all of a sudden. We haven't.
I feel 10 times smarter.
I love it. So the task at hand for us is June. We celebrate and shine a glorious spotlight on LGBTQ Month. Parades and festivals might be fewer this year because of COVID-19, but that does not diminish our pride for our LGBTQ brothers and sisters. So let us boost that signal and celebrate Pride Month. And I shall introduce my beautiful rainbow tribe for these next 4 episodes. First up, you know her is the colorful women's history artist. Welcome back, Bonnie Fillenworth. Yay!
Hello!
Tell the good people what you have been up to in these weird times.
I've been doing a lot of gardening.
Sweet.
And a lot of researching different things every day.
Ooh.
The other day I heard that there's a thing called a sugar beet that you
Oh.
can grow, and 20% of our sugar is from sugar beet and the other's sugar cane. I was like, maybe I could grow some sugar beet and make my own sugar. But the process is crazy.
Oh, to actually refine it and granulate it.
I think if you just want to have a sugary syrup or molasses, it's not that bad. But to actually get it to crystallize, which you need sugar for.
Wait.
You need to drop some grains of sugar in it to make it to form the crystals.
Huh.
So I'm you need sugar to get the sugar.
Interesting.
So somewhere out there, there's a grandma sugar cane
I don't
that's
know.
that's
like
the
the
mash.
mother-
That's
The mother dough?
Yeah.
Kind of
Yeah.
for the
yeah, that's what
sourdough?
I'm thinking. There's
And
the mother sugar dough.
I like it.
The last couple days, it's been canning.
Ooh.
yeah.
You're slowly becoming Katie. Let me know when you start turning
Except
butter.
she's probably
Yeah.
proficient at things. Although I made my own hoagie buns yesterday
Oh.
from scratch.
See?
These times make you do crazy things.
I know, right? Well, let me formally introduce Katie and find out what more weird things she's been doing. So she has been rocking the Gals Guide Short Story Club. Katie Harris is back to the program, everybody. Yay!
Hello.
So besides buns, hun,
Oh, yeah.
what has been new in your world?
Getting my kid through the rest of 2nd grade.
That is a tough thing right now.
We both survived it.
Yeah, barely.
Barely. It happened.
Yeah.
Happened. It got towards the end. He doesn't listen to my podcast. He told me this today.
Oh, okay.
Which I figured
that's
since
cool. He
he just
reminds you.
consumes what I get him. So I'll tell you that his Zoom calls for the last 2 weeks of school,
Yeah.
he was just in his t-shirt and underwear and he didn't stand up.
Oh,
Literally was not wearing
thank
pants.
goodness for small favors on the not standing up part.
Yeah, I was waiting for the day he forgot that he was pantsless and did it, but
Right.
he finished out strong. So anyway, taking care of the kiddo, been doing a little baking because I'm getting ready. I have a brand new job. I'm starting in June.
Woo!
Yes,
Look at
I
that. Love it.
I'm going to be working in Carmel at No Label at the Table.
Awesome.
It's a gluten-free and dairy-free bakery that employs people with autism.
Perfect.
So I'll be there working with all the staff and helping expand the cafe. Well, I'm stuck in my old world, the
Right.
bakery.
The bakery.
But they're wanting to expand a little bit out beyond that. So I'm throwing
Ooh.
vegan cheese out there. So I've been working on the vegan cheese front. So lots of exciting things.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love it. They
Cool.
are so lucky to have you.
Yeah.
So sweet.
Fantastic. Next up, she is a returning gal pal who is a wonder with watercolor. Kerra Wagner. Kerra, welcome back, darling. Remind the good people about yourself.
I do crafts, art.
Yes.
And one thing I've been doing during quarantine is trying to paint every day.
I love it.
And that's, I think, helped quite a bit.
Right.
So I'm not afraid to share my paintings with people.
I like it.
And I'm currently on furlough from a job where I deal with data at the computer. So painting things is really good.
I know, right?
Having the teenagers home
Yes.
has been interesting.
That makes sense.
And
yes.
I've learned just how much food two teenage boys
Oh
can
my
go
God.
through.
Oh my
Oh,
goodness. Yeah. No. I feel for you. Wow.
Yeah.
There's never enough food.
No. And they live half time with us and half time with their mom.
Right. So you
And-
can replenish the food supply
Right,
in the time they're
so-
away? Okay.
And I've noticed that we eat like, a quarter or less of the amount when they're there. But their mom
Right.
says the same thing.
Right.
So.
Exactly. See? I love it. Well, as for me, I am Dr. Leah Leach, the Executive Director of Gals Guide, and I am getting amped up for our online camps. All this month is O'Hara's Training Academy. It is free. It is on Zoom. And then my substitution for my Wonder Woman fix, because the Wonder Woman movie is being delayed. In July, Gals Guide is hosting a Wonder Woman Academy, which is going to be awesome. And Bonnie, you're going to be teaching some classes in that one too. Yes. We are going to utilize her Greek and Amazon knowledge because, she loves to drop every now and again. That one time when, I was overseas. And
When I minored in classical studies,
Exactly. I love it. So we get to use that power for good and evil. Mostly good. Mostly good.
Just a little bit.
Just a little spark of madness. I love it. So listeners, if you haven't registered yet, do it because it's all online. So you can be from any corner of the galaxy for our awesome classes. And they are going to be broadcast from the library. So you even get to see them right here. So now I usually set the tone for our research theme, but I wanted to do something just a little bit differently this time. I wanted to address our listeners perhaps who have not come out publicly, who perhaps feel like they need to quiet this aspect of themselves, who maybe feel alone or shamed. And I want you to know that you have a safe place at Gals Guide. We welcome all. You email me anytime, leah@galsguide.org. That is my email, and I got you. If you need a substitute mom or a sister or an auntie who loves you for who you are, you got me. I have seen far too many ladies and gentlemen of history hide away this aspect of their identity, and I want you to know that you don't have to hide it from me. So on that note of love and welcomeness, who wants to share their one cool thing?
I'll start. This is Kerra.
Yay! Kira's
I'll
gonna
start
start.
with that.
Fantastic. I love it. Who do you got for us, darling?
Well, it's not a who.
I like it. That's why we always use thing, because it can be an idea.
Yeah.
It can be a concept. It can be a culture. It can be anything.
Well, when you talked to me about this the first time, I was starting to think about people.
Right.
And then it hit me that really was a big deal for me, and I know must be for a lot of other people, are the letters that are used to describe LGBT.
Right. Exactly.
Or LGBTQIA.
Right.
Or I've got a list of them here.
Right.
So that's
exactly.
what,
Because there's variations. Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
So that's
Yeah.
what I'm going to be talking about today.
I love it. I think this is fantastic and a wonderful way to start too. So yeah.
Yeah, so we'll give a rundown of what the letters are.
Yep.
And what they mean. In case anybody has any questions about that. First of all, I want to say that I'm bisexual.
Gotcha. Awesome.
I am also polyamorous.
Nice.
So also something I'm out of the ordinary. When my dad and I used to talk about people, and if I had ever anytime I asked him the question about someone's sexual orientation, basically, were they gay or were they straight?
Right.
Because we both did theater together. His answer was always the same. I don't know. I'm not sleeping with them.
Nice.
That's a good answer.
It is.
Yeah.
And those were just the type of conversations I had with my father.
Yeah, nice.
And as I've been thinking about it, it's like, that is so true. Because does it really matter? Is that a question you need to ask of about anyone
Right.
unless you are planning on having a long-term relationship with them.
Right.
Or even just hooking up with them, having
Right.
sex. Otherwise...
Or setting them up.
Okay, setting them up
You know
with
what I
somebody
mean?
too.
Yeah, exactly. Because I tend to play that matchmaker role every now and again.
Otherwise, it doesn't matter.
Correct. Yes.
And the only way you can, really, is if you're sleeping with them right at the moment,
Yep.
what's your gender, and get a fair balance of what they are.
Right.
Now, at the time that I first had that conversation with my dad, I knew that I was bisexual, but it was several years later when I learned that my daddy was gay.
Gotcha.
And he lived with his partner for 16 years before he died.
Oh, gotcha.
Unfortunately, they died before gay marriage was legalized.
Oh, but they were together for 16 years.
16.
It's lovely.
And I remember because they lived in Florida, and I would fly down, and at least once, maybe more than once, I'd get there and they'd go, okay, come on, we're going to a gay pride parade. Or if that was just the sort of thing that we did together.
Lovely.
So, the term gay has been used as a term for male homosexuals since the late 19th century.
Gotcha.
In the mid-1980s, there was a conscious effort made to add the term lesbian to all gay organizations that catered to both male and female homosexuals.
Gotcha.
And then for many ardent feminist leaders, it was also important that the L came before the G so that it didn't portray another symbol of male dominance over women.
Yeah.
Right.
I see you.
Although there are still some women who prefer the use of a gay woman instead of lesbian.
Right.
And also because I am a theater person, an actor, I used to call myself an actress. But I've gotten used to calling myself an actor.
Right.
Or people refer to themselves as female actors. There are lots of situations where one word that has been used is not then changed for whether you're male or female.
Right, exactly. It's still kind of fluid and preference still kind of to a certain extent, but at the same time, the tide is changing.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And the terms for the gay community or the LGBT community,
right?
They've grown and multiplied quite a bit.
Yeah.
And that's why I refer to this as alphabet soup. So LGBT stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender.
Right.
And it began in the mid to late 80s when activists decided that the term gay did not represent all those to whom it referred.
Gotcha.
The T was added somewhere in the 1990s, although the trans activists had been a part of the gay rights movement since
the beginning.
Yeah.
Since,
yeah.
Well, I mean, since
60s
Stonewall.
and 70s, yeah.
You know what I mean? So, yeah.
And then the use of LGBTQ was first recorded as an umbrella term to account for anyone who didn't fit neatly into the LGBT categories.
Right.
Around 1996.
Gotcha.
So none of this is that long ago, and it's still changing.
Right, exactly.
So,
I've been seeing the plus.
Yes. That's what I was going to say is the different abbreviations that, I came across were LGBTQ plus.
Right.
Also LGBT plus.
Right.
LGBTI.
Gotcha.
LGBTQIA.
Right. I have been seeing that one. Yep.
Here's the mouthful. LGBTQIAAP.
Oh.
Oh.
My dyslexia might go nope with that one.
So,
but I will try.
That is lesbian, gay,
Yeah.
bisexual, transgender, transsexual,
Okay.
queer, questioning, intersex, asexual, ally, pansexual.
Oh, it includes
Oh.
ally as well.
Yeah.
Interesting. Oh, okay.
So that's, and we'll talk about
Okay.
what all of those are.
Perfect. Yes.
Then this is kind of cute, I think, the use of the term quilt bag.
Okay.
Quilt bag stands for queer and questioning,
Okay.
intersex, lesbian, transgender, and two-spirit, which
Okay.
is an Indian term,
Oh.
bisexual, asexual and ally, gay, and genderqueer.
Oh, interesting.
So quilt bag kind of works for me. It's an easier
Right.
thing to remember sometimes.
Yeah.
And it touches basically everything
Right.
without it getting too long. And then more recently, though, I have also seen GSM,
Okay.
which is gender and sexual minority,
Gotcha.
and GSD, which is gender and sexual diversity.
Ah.
And that's a question of how you want to look at the world and people.
Right.
Mhm.
And then MoGay.
Ooh, I kind of like this one. Yes.
MoGay is marginalized orientations, gender alignments, and intersex.
Interesting.
So,
I know, right?
yeah.
That sounds like a great opportunity to be like, are you gay? No, I'm mo gay.
I
know.
That sounds great.
I know, exactly.
Yeah. No, I'm a quilt bag.
It sounds fun.
Okay, so those are the terms, and I'm sure there's still some more that I haven't heard of or didn't find when I was researching.
Right.
But
That's your foundation.
that's my foundation.
Your starters. Yeah.
And so what I am going to do is go through the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, transsexual, queer, questioning, intersex, asexual, ally, and pansexual.
Yes.
And what they mean.
Let's do this.
Great.
And I'm going to break it down. I'm not going to do it in that order.
Okay. Gotcha.
What I'm going to do is break it down into two basic categories, and that is gender identity and sexual orientation.
Right.
Nice.
Because different. Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
Because there is some crossover on some of the terms, depending on how you use the word.
Yeah.
But for the most part, when you're talking about alphabet soup of LGBT+, those two categories pretty much cover, and things separate out pretty cleanly.
Makes sense.
So, gender identity is defined by the Human Rights Campaign as the innermost concept of self as male, female, a blend of both or neither.
Nice.
So, how individuals perceive themselves and what they call themselves.
Right. It's self-identification.
Self-identification.
Yep.
It can either mirror what a person is assigned at birth or be entirely different.
Mhm.
And there are dozens of genders outside of just man and woman that people can identify with.
Yeah.
I can say that I understand that and can hear it, but there's a part of me that I am so glad, always have been as a child, that I'm a girl, that I have trouble sometimes getting my head around more the genders.
Gotcha. The fluidity of
The
gender.
fluidity of it, yeah. But then I realize it's like, I don't have to really get it.
Right. Yeah.
As long as I respect the fact that other people
Others.
do.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
That is gender identity. And then sexual orientation is, again, this Human Rights Campaign, the inherent or immutable, enduring, emotional, romantic, or sexual attraction to people.
Oh, I like it. Yeah.
So it's basically who you're interested in dating
yeah.
and being intimate with.
Mm-hmm.
So someone can be transgender, but can also be gay, straight, bisexual, asexual, or any other
Right, exactly.
of the sexual identities that exist.
Mm-hmm.
And a simple way to put it, as one person did, is sexuality is who you go to bed with, and gender identity is who you go to bed as.
Ah, there you go.
And I think that's a
good
great
way.
way to kind of keep it, I don't want to use words straight, but yeah, keep it straight in your mind.
Right, exactly. To label it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, gender identity. I'm going to start with transgender.
Gotcha.
And transgender, I actually do have a sister who is transgender. She is male to female,
Yeah.
and she's in activist here in Indianapolis.
Yes.
People who have a gender identity or gender expression that differs from their sex assigned at birth. That's transgender.
Yeah.
It is not a sexual orientation. It is independent of a sexual orientation. People who desire medical assistance to transition from one sex to another are identified as transsexual.
Gotcha.
Transgender is often shortened to trans, and that is an umbrella term that includes people whose gender identity is different than their assigned sex.
Gotcha.
So trans men and trans women.
Mm-hmm.
It also includes people who are non-binary, genderqueer, bigender, and gender fluid.
Mm-hmm.
So the opposite of transgender is cisgender.
Yes.
So I am cis. I was born female.
Right.
And so that's how it's shortened.
And that's how
from
you
cisgender. It's called
identify.
cis.
Right.
I identify as female.
Yeah.
I've wondered about what that means. What does it, I was like, what does that stand for?
Right. Yeah.
Well,
yeah, because I don't even know.
it is from the it is derived from Latin, the prefix cis meaning on this side of, which is the opposite of trans, meaning across from or on the other side of.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So, in essence, cisgender didn't exist
Right.
until there was trans.
I kind of like that.
Yeah.
To me, that's very yin and yang. You know
It
what I
is.
mean? So, yeah. One created the other. Yeah, the polars.
Yep. So, intersexual is the next word. And this is also one that over the years has shown up, and I've gone, well, what is intersexual?
I would say I'm not that confident in understanding what intersexual is, but I want to be.
Because when I was growing up, it was referred to as hermaphrodite a
Oh,
lot of times.
Okay, gotcha. Ah.
So, born with the sexual anatomy, reproductive organs, and or chromosomal patterns that do not fit the typical definition of male or female.
Gotcha. Okay.
But it's also not just hermaphrodites, because there are
Right.
people who are born with an extra gene.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that is intersexual.
Yeah.
I think is like, oh, yeah.
Right, of course, yes.
Queer.
Mm-hmm.
Now, queer is an umbrella term for sexual and gender minorities who are not heterosexual or are not cisgender.
Okay.
However, since mid to late 1990s, it has also covered people who identify as queer heterosexual,
Gotcha.
which are cisgendered heterosexual people who exhibit non-traditional sexual and gender roles.
Okay, gotcha.
So I do have quite a few friends, particularly in the poly community, who refer to themselves as queer, but they're not gay, lesbian, bi, or transgender.
Right. Okay, gotcha.
So that's the queer term. Now that's still one of those things that's still kind of finding its ground, leveling.
And it might even be evolving over time,
Yeah.
too. So, yeah.
And lots of these are things that will change.
Yeah.
Genderqueer. Now, this is also known as non-binary.
Gotcha.
It's a spectrum of gender identities that are not exclusively male or female. So genderqueer can be considered part of the transgender umbrella. But genderqueer people may be people who identify as having two or more genders, or no gender,
Right.
other gendered, or having a fluctuating gender identity, so gender fluid.
Yeah, exactly.
And I, again, just with the people that I know and hang out with, I do know several people that are genderqueer because they're gender fluid.
Right, exactly, yeah.
And that's why it's important to ask people what their pronouns are.
Right, exactly.
And do they want to be referred to as he or she
Or they.
or they
Right.
or there are additional ones out there, and suddenly my brain has gone.
Gotcha. I
floof
only know the
because I
three.
was dealing with the all of the rest of this.
Right,
it was
right.
like I started to write that down.
It was there somewhere.
And one of the things that's been recommended in one of the gay alliance groups that I'm in is for, even though I'm cisgendered, on my signature line,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
underneath it, I list she, her, hers.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had people stop and ask me, why do you put that? And it's like, because it needs to be normalized.
Exactly.
We need to work at thinking beyond, oh, well, she's a girl.
Right.
And it's like, oh, no. The first wedding I performed,
Yes.
I had to refer to the bride as they
Mm-hmm.
and the groom as he,
Mhm.
even though at some point, even though they're both born female.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And it was interesting for me at the time because I was just getting used to
Mm-hmm.
using other pronouns.
Mhm.
Right. Exactly.
So do your best and know that people make mistakes.
Apologize
and if
often.
you do,
right.
then apologize to the person.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Really
Just
that
try.
simple.
Yeah,
Just
do
try.
your best.
Yeah.
And don't be a dick. Like
That's it.
The Will Witten way.
Yeah.
Love it.
Okay, so those are our gender identities.
Perfect.
Sexual orientation.
Mhm.
So who you're interested in.
Right.
And the first one is gay.
Mhm.
This is the most common term for homosexual males, but it also commonly refers to both homosexual males and females nowadays.
Yeah.
There is no specific word to refer to a homosexual male,
Gotcha.
like gay, and then the next term lesbian for homosexual women.
Right.
So that's something that I think at some point, because we do tend to label ourselves,
Mhm.
is going to probably change and come around.
You
But
know what I wonder? You know how we use guys as the default? You know what I
Uh-huh.
mean? Like even when we're talking to women, hey guys.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if it's going to be along that same lines. You know what I mean? Where it's like, no, this identifies this. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
maybe the term gals will come back.
True.
Maybe.
We're working on it.
We're going to do our small part.
but so gay, it means a homosexual,
Right.
somebody attracted to a person of the same sex.
Mhm.
Lesbian is a homosexual woman who is women who love other women.
Mhm.
Now, the word lesbian is derived from the name of the Greek Isle of Lesbos,
Yes.
which was home to the 6th century poet Sappho.
Right.
And very little of Sappho's poetry survives, but what does shows that the topics she wrote about were women.
Mhm.
And she focused on the beauty of women and proclaimed her love for girls.
Mhm.
I could go on and on and
I
on.
know
'cause
Sappho's a
I've done-
complicated one too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she's interesting and definitely worth like starting research. We have to dedicate like some time to Sappho.
My
at some
favorite
point.
little
Yeah.
tidbit
Yeah.
is that someone did write that she did have a spouse,
Yeah.
like her husband, but like it's like a weird little hidden joke where if you read it in like the classical Greek, I think his name is like Dick Penis or something. It's like a joke.
Right. Dun, 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 dun. She's a very cool character though. Yes.
Yeah. But just knowing that where it came from, I think
Right.
helps.
Yeah.
Going back to gay,
Mhm.
it used to be used in a very different way.
Yeah. Why can't I remember what it was?
It was joy. I mean,
Mhm.
Oh,
they
yeah,
were
yeah.
they were
That's right.
gay, they were
Happiness.
frivolous
Right,
and
exactly.
happy, and
yes, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
and it's gone through changes. And again, there's lots of information about that, but it was the late 1800s, I think, where it really started to turn around and mean
Mhm.
Gotcha. Okay. I think it meant happy homosexuals.
Yes, well,
They're so happy.
I was just watching Victor Victoria.
Oh, yes.
This week.
Was it the Julie Andrews version?
Yes.
Okay, good.
And there's a line in there about when they say that gay party is gay,
Right.
they mean it's gay.
Right.
And just makes me laugh.
Love it.
Okay, next sexual orientation is asexual, which is also known as ace.
Ah.
It is a lack of sexual attraction to others or lower absent interest in or desire for sexual activity.
Gotcha.
Asexual is not the same as abstinence or celibacy, which are considered behavioral.
Okay, gotcha.
Also, asexual people may be lacking sexual attraction to others, but may still be interested in purely romantic relationships or not. And asexuals will often identify with another sexual orientation because of their association with romantic love. And also asexuality has a lot of ties to feminism.
Some kind of correlation there, sort of thing.
Yeah, there were studies done about asexuality, and of course women were looked at differently as than men. And I think some of that took on feminist attitude of asexuality being important to be able to say, I love you, but I'm not interested in sex.
Right, yeah. I gotcha.
So, bisexual, and that I am also listing as pansexual. Pansexual is not listed in a lot of the a lot of the alphabet soup options.
Isn't that what Deadpool is?
I think he does identify as pan.
That's what I thought, yeah. Because that was the first time I ever heard it, and I went, I don't know what that is. Now I want to know, because Deadpool.
It took me a long time to figure out the difference between, like, I had to, like, look it up several times and try to get sorted in my head, the difference between bi and pan.
Well, and part of it, though, is, okay, well, let me just...
Yeah, sorry, back it up. Yes.
Because it has, being that I've identified as bisexual for so long, and there is quite a bit of negativity about bisexuality.
Which there shouldn't be, but yes, I'm with you.
Both because straight people will go, oh, you're bi. It puts you on the, your gay side.
Right.
And then the gay people go, oh, you're bi. You just can't, can't make up your mind. You just want.
So you're like stuck in limbo almost between acceptance of anybody. Yeah. It's not fun.
No.
Right.
And the pansexual coming out as a term has caused some interesting effects within the bi community. Particularly if you're someone who self-identifies as bi but truly is pan.
Gotcha.
But I'm not. Yeah. Okay, so we'll get there.
Yeah. I'm with you.
So, bisexual community includes those who identify as bisexual, pansexual, omnisexual, bioromantic, polysexual, or sexually fluid.
Right.
So, bisexual is an attraction to people who are of the same gender and the opposite gender.
Gotcha.
So bi being two, like bicycle.
Right.
Pansexual is attraction towards people regardless of their sex or gender identity. Which to me sounds pretty much the same. However,
right.
Pansexual, a lot of people who are pro-pansexual say that bisexual is cutting out anybody that is not either male or female.
Okay, gotcha.
And since we're now talking about gender fluid,
right,
where we didn't have those words before,
right,
that we should be using pansexual instead of bisexual.
Right.
Yeah, because pansexual people are open to relationships with people who do not identify as strictly male or female. It's considered that pansexuality is more inclusive because they reject gender binary.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
Sure.
And again, this
to
is
say bisexuals don't.
right. And this is
Yeah.
for me because I do identify as bisexual and have for majority of my life.
Yeah.
Changing that to pansexual for me just doesn't feel right.
Mhm.
Gotcha.
It doesn't change who I can fall in love with.
Right.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Gender's not important to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't changed.
Yeah.
How
And
I identify
you
myself.
Get to do that. Yeah.
Also because I like the colors better for bisexual than pansexual. And
Colors.
that's the artist in me.
There you go. I dig it.
Yeah, because bisexual colors are blue, pink, and purple.
Gotcha.
So where they overlap.
Right.
And the pansexual colors are lavender, cyan, and yellow.
Okay.
So cyan is a blue.
Right.
Mhm.
It's
Gotcha.
so
Just
yeah.
more visually appealing. One or the other. There
Yeah.
you go.
So that's both bisexual and pansexual then.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
Okay. So we have covered all but 2 of the initials in the LGBTQIAAP.
Look at you. Beautiful.
Can't do that unless it's written in front of me.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. So those 2 that we haven't touched yet are not really under either sexual orientation or gender identity. The one is questioning.
Right.
And I
right.
think that probably speaks for itself. Basically, it's people who are questioning their sexual orientation, their sexual identity,
Mhm.
their gender, or all 3.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So any of them or all of them.
Mhm.
Questioning.
I like that.
That's a...
hmm
So...
It's okay to not know at this juncture.
Yeah.
To be like, I'm working it. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to figure out who I love and who I am and what my preferences
Right.
are. Exactly.
And
Yeah.
that's one reason I like having the Q in there when you
Yeah.
say LGBTQ
Me too. Yeah.
plus. Even though most people refer to it as queer,
Mhm.
Right.
queer or questioning.
Right. Exactly. That's the way that I always think
cover.
of it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then the last letter is one of the ones that I think is most important, and that is ally.
Yes, absolutely.
So, ally is a heterosexual cisgendered person who supports equal civil rights,
Mhm.
gender equality, and LGBTQIA plus
Yes.
social movements, and they challenge homophobia, biphobia, and transphobia.
Yes, absolutely.
And so not everyone who is heterosexual and cisgendered is an ally,
Right. Right. But they should be.
Yeah. but hopefully someday we'll get there.
There you go. That's very positive.
So that is my run through
I love
of the
it.
alphabet soup, gender identity and sexual orientation.
Good
So what all those
job.
letters are.
See?
Any questions?
I feel far more knowledgeable,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, now, and be like, okay, I think I know what some of the, you know what I mean, the letters mean, but at the same time, I always want to be respectful
Mhm.
and observant and knowledgeable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Always come from an intent where it's just like, no. I respect your-ness.
Yes.
If I'm getting it wrong, I will recorrect
Right.
myself.
And I also, in doing the research on this, the GSD, I think, makes sense as far as gender and sexual diversity
Mhm.
and ease. But I really like quilt peg.
That's a new one for me. I kind of like it too.
Yeah.
I think Kerra was exceptionally thorough.
She was.
Thank you.
Well, you
I'm
told
still
us
like
all the letters
soaking
you
it
can
all
hit.
in.
Yeah.
You know, it was a lot of new information for me.
Yeah. There's, I mean, it's a lot that I think that we are kind of aware of or we're just used to.
Or we mean
Okay.
to pay attention to it. We just like haven't taken the time yet.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So-
Well, I always thought that pan meant you were attracted to people's personalities. and
Gotcha.
didn't take it like, even in my own mind when I rethink that, I'm like, that doesn't really make sense. We're not talking about just like people's personalities. We're talking about we're attracted to a person, a whole person,
Right.
in
Yeah.
all aspects. So that was definitely a great clear up for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of people who are pan would say it's all about the personality.
Right.
Maybe that's how I got that idea.
Yeah. Because
I
I
know a
know,
few people that identify as pan. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
because me identifying as bi, I've always said, don't care so much about the gender, more about who the person is.
Right. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
So,
I love that.
Yeah, if you're like questioning about someone, I mean, you can just ask them, you know, which pronouns they prefer. You know, you can ask them like what they identify as. They don't have to tell you because, frankly,
Right.
it's really none of your business.
Right, exactly.
But you know what they tell you, just try your best to refer to them as that. You know, it's just like if you're asking someone their name and they say they're Michael, you're not just going to start calling them, you know, Mike or Dickbag, you know, just to be a dick, you know.
We're not supposed to do that? Okay.
No.
Let me just write this down.
No,
but there are people
refer
who
to
do.
people of what they want to
Yes.
be called. Like,
Their preference,
It's-
yes.
it's a manners, people.
I would say
Exactly.
I'm real big on politeness and manners. I really do try. And one of the things that embarrasses me the most is when I can't pronounce people's names correctly.
Oh,
Oh, gotcha.
Like
Yeah.
I'm not really good at like
Phonics?
phonics.
Yeah.
That's that word.
Mm.
And just like hearing correctly
Right.
how things are pronounced. So I struggle hard
oh.
if it's a name that's not like one of our 20 approved white
Yeah.
people names.
No, I just skip
I
over that because
don't
I can
know.
never remember anyone's name to begin with.
I'm
so.
bad about that too.
See, I get it with French because I took a foreign language program and it was a couple of weeks of German, a couple of weeks of Spanish, and a couple of weeks of French. And I really liked French, but my teacher said, your mouth can't do it. Don't do French. So now when I come across a French name or a
Ooh.
French, my
You
brain,
freeze.
I hear the teacher in my head going, don't.
Can't do it.
You can't do French. And
Tell
so...
her.
I know
Think about you.
exactly. So I just say it with confidence, but at the same
Right?
time, that's
Love
where,
it.
yeah, I get it. Where it's like, damn it, it's French.
Yeah, that's why I didn't. Well, one of the reasons why I didn't take Spanish, like I cannot roll an R.
Oh, I can
to
roll
save my
an R.
life.
Ooh, that's good.
That's
You have
why
a
I took.
Spanish mouth.
That's why I took 3 years of Spanish. I can say "Donde es el baño," which is where's the bathroom.
There you go.
3 years.
What about the biblioteca?
The biblioteca is right here.
Yeah.
Aquí.
Oh man.
I love it. Sorry, we got derailed.
I
It
mean, it's
happens
all
very
about
fast.
trying to be respectful to people. though.
right, it is.
Yeah.
We added some little silliness, but just trying your
Yeah.
best. And I think the same rule goes, and I need to remind myself, like, if I mess up with a pronoun or if I don't pronounce somebody's name correctly, I just need to be like, I'm sorry, I know you've told me 20 times, but I need you to remind me again.
Exactly. I'll get it. I'll get it.
It's
I
not
have a
you.
bad
It's
memory.
me.
Try me again. It's all me. I'll keep
Yeah.
working. Yeah, like you were saying. Like my
Yeah.
favorite quote that Leah brought into my life: "When you know better, you do better."
That's Maya Angelou right there. Exactly.
Yeah.
You can't know better until you know better, and then you do better. Yeah, exactly.
And I was going to say, it's like I could never pronounce Keanu Reeves' name until I
Kanunu.
saw
Oh.
it spelled out.
It's pronounced Kanunu. That's how I've been
Gonna say.
calling it since 1983.
Leah has
Kanunu
opinions on
Reeves.
this.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Mhm.
and there are times, like I said, I have a trans sister.
Mhm.
There are times when I think back to before she transitioned,
Right.
and when I'm talking about her back then,
Yeah.
I mess up.
Gotcha. Because the wiring is
The memories,
pronoun is
Yeah.
attached to the image. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
it's a different wiring part of your brain. Yeah. Past is
So-
weird.
yes, it is.
Reflection is very, very interestingly muddled.
But I apologize. That's all I have to do is.
Right, exactly.
I'm sorry.
Yep. Exactly.
And most of the time, I get it right. You know,
See, there you go. It's the intention. It's about trying.
right?
Yeah. I dig it. You want me to wrap it up?
Sure.
All right. Well, that wraps us up for this week. Join us next week as our next gal pal shares her one cool LGBTQ plus thing as Gal's Guide to the Galaxy podcast continues. Thanks for listening. For show notes, links, and images from this week's show, visit galsguide.org. Want exclusive stuff like deleted bits and major bloopers? Become a Gals Guide patron today. Thanks for listening.